Welcome everyone. Today we have a special Wilson build. Today we have the Dot AoE Aura Bleeding Edge Mage with over 3 million DPS. So how does this Dot Bleeding Edge Mage work? Yes, currently the highest damage skill will still have to be Bleeding Edge, and each variation of it will reflect your different playstyle or different choice of damage and perks. So let's go into the skills, then we're going to start up a map. I'm going to show the damage and show the skill, how they interact with the mobs. Then we'll go into the talent tree and everything else. Firstly, we have a blink. We need some casting for the blink. So the blink is nice, really far range. We also leave a decoy. Second up, we have a buff that gives us almost everything. Block, critical chance, life leech, movement, resist, everything we wanted. Really good buff. Third to that, we also have another buff that will give us the first set of dot. This is a holy status weakening debuff dot. This does secret damage. I keep saying relic damage. This does secret damage and other damage, and because it does secret damage, it also converts the damage we do within the area also into secret, which is very good because we also have the perk here. I'll show you guys the perk. The perk here is going to be the Dawn Previous Striker. Basically, we one-shot units that's below 15% HP, and also for champions as well. So units will be looking at 10, 50, 100 million HP in the future in the in-games, and by reducing HP by 15%, you reduce pretty much at least 15 million HP of them. And this also increases the damage because the perk turns damage into secret. Secret damage is a part of the acute damage with secret, shadow, and also the other damage, and those damage will be increased by 7% for each curse we debuff on the enemy. And talking about curses, we can debuff 10 curses with a touch of the finger or with a special belt. The belt here we have is the trial, which debuffs enemies with mark of impunity on hit. But if you don't have the belt, you can just click it and you can replace for a better belt with much better stats like this one. So this is just for the ease of the build if you have the belt, and if you don't have a crafting to legendary, you can click it. It's actually pretty nice, and you can get the spread. Basically, spreading out to enemies will help us a lot, which I'll touch upon. The next dot will going to have the Plague Burst. Plague Burst, a bit of reach and conversion. So Plague Burst is our major source of damage dot. So this gives us the poison and status. Not the highest rate at 19 and 28%, but the good thing is it's always on. And both of those will give us the majority of the dot for the mage. And as a mage, we can blink around. Lastly, the source of damage will come from Bleeding Edge. Because with dot enemies, we do ailments, and we have, curses, bleeding, weakness, status, we have poison, we have almost everything. And these are also debuff enemies. And the Bleeding Edge is going to be the bread and butter for the massive damage per second. Let's go to Master. Let's try to get the monster stronger. I want to go monster more HP if I can. No, HP. I need high HP monster dig. I'm going to give them 59% maximum HP, so we can actually see how much we hit. Let's go into it. Let's see how we go. Let's get this going. So basically, this hits very hard. That's for sure. So that's a half a million HP. Usually I don't click the chest, but here we just show how strong we are. And this is that's a 32 million HP. I didn't even see it. I need to see the replays for that. This is a 1.5 million HP monster. It just gets shredded, demolished. I mean, yes, I'm not pressing my R, but you can press it for the same effect, and you can also have a stronger belt. I'm not too worried about the... Oof. I need transfer times. Let me double check that after. I thought I had plenty of that. Maybe I pressed too much. What I mean by the transfer times, notice this small bar here that's not transferring fast enough. I have reduction to transfer time, reduction, and reduction. Should be enough. I'm a little greedy, so the belt didn't have the socket there. But I can go for socket. So let's move around. We move very quickly. And there's a boss. Perfect. This one has 7 million. Let's see how much we do. And we go to him, and 7 minutes gone. I say it's about 3 million, DPS per second. It's more like 10 million, right? Hey there, Gunux. Welcome, buddy. Showing off the new Dot Mage. This is the endgame mage I started to build into. Very strong. And keep in mind the secret damage one-shot them when they are low on HP. so much mobility as well. So get the dots going, and it will just go to it. And he disappears. Oof. Isn't that lovely? So it gets a little absurd as well with this whole combination. So before I face the boss, I guess definitely get my stacks up. And then pew 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 pew. They all disappear. Let's see if I can find anyone. Let's find another big boss. And I think you guys have the hang of this particular build. So let's have a look at this. It's about 6 minutes. And in 2 seconds it's gone. Yeah. This works incredibly well against high HP monsters because the longer we spin, the more debuff they get. And we have like 10 different set of debuffs pretty much. And this gets insane. It's kind of a little ridiculous. The more stacks we can have up to 30 stacks. And look how fast I'm going. Mina says, I want this build. Yes, I want this build as well, but the only thing is this build does require you to have at least level 75, I believe, to have the most of the perks. I checked it out. So 75 will be the goal for me. And after level 75, you can go further. You just get more damage, you get more survivability. Oh boy. And before you get to 75, you might lose damage, you might lose the whole combo. This is where I'm here to show you guys. So, yes, I'll make the build guide onto the website as for you as well. So onto 75 and onto 90. This way you can see where to go for 75 and where to go for 90. Let's have a look into the choice of the attributes. We went for lots of ferocity for the highest percentage of damage and also toughness. I actually didn't go into any wisdom. The pure debuff is coming from two things. One is from the talents naturally, from increase the debuff chances, and also I'm debuffing enemies with multiple set of spells, and some of them are guaranteed debuffs. So I don't have to worry that I need the highest chance, and this will reduce my damage. Second to that, I'm also using catalysts that have a really high status debuff. So here is occult status. That means I can get the curses, I can get the status effect much more likely. If I have the physical status debuff on my dagger, then that's really good if I'm actually going for the bleeding and the poison debuffs. So those two are the material ones. Well, I don't want the elemental debuff status though. So because I don't do any elemental debuff. The poison will come from the Plague Burst, and also the bleeding from Bleeding Edge are the biggest one for material. Here for this weapon, I just found it in the shop. I crafted a little bit. If you've seen the crafting guide, I crafted a little bit for the stats I wanted. I got it in the shop. I only have 2 sockets. I don't even have 3 good sockets. You want the sockets on the flat damage, which we'll explain very soon. Let's look at the stats for this particular mage. This is an incredibly tanky and durable mage. So not only we have decent resistance, we have 15% more resistance for each enemy we cast with a shout, and that gives us a lot. Also, we have the Book of Dawn ready, so we got the Dawn ready. And the stats goes up, we get 3000, so at least 45, 48%, and this goes further when we shout enemies. After that, we have block efficiency at 18, with a shout we get 76% blocking. And followed by that, really good movement speed, and lots of utility with Ether Drum. Next up, we have the Life Leech. We don't have much Life Leech here, but when we shout, we get 8% Life Leech. And if you're constantly doing about 3 million damage per second, well, your HP just goes up. And with enough perks, you just don't die. Especially having more defensive capacities. HP, we're looking at 85k. You don't have to have this high. I think 80k or 75k is enough. For me, it just happens that my HP is pretty high. I can respect myself, and I'm not sure if I showed you guys how to respect with this. So what you can do is you can respect this, and oh boy, you look at 890 perks to click, and that gets very tiring on the fingers. What you can do is you can hold down Alt, you can hold down Control, and this gives you 50 perks if I click it. So this is really helpful. If I hold down Shift, this will give me 5 perks if I click it, and this is very helpful for the small incremental increase. If I hold down Alt and Shift, this gives me 250 points if I click, and this saves so much time. And also fingers. Finger is a big part. So here I can just perk it up, and there, 3 seconds. It'll take me like 5 minutes. I used to get really scared of this perking. So there you go. So I can easily tailor my build and adjust it. Now, after that, what are my talents? Very interesting. Yes, this is an offline character, my friend. So, what are my talents? The talents for this one is definitely going to be debuffs because we are dot mage. And for the debuffs, we have +5 elements here and +5 here, +5 here, +5 here, which give us 30 debuffs. The biggest factor about this particular mage with Bleeding Edge is that we'll be converting the Bleeding Edge damage into the secret damage, and with secret damage we do additional damage with occult damage because enemy is pretty much cursed. Occult damage counts for 3 sets of damage. I'll show you guys over here. So occult damage counts for Ether, Secret and Shadow. It will count all of those for you. So basically buffing occult gives you all 3 increase of those damage types. And because we convert damage into secret, we also, one-shot people at 15% of the max life, and also for the champions as well. The build does use some fancy multipliers here. Some of the best one in the game, we actually use all of them. First multiplier we spoke earlier is about the occult damage multiplier that goes with curse stacks. I don't think it's a multiplier, but it multiplies to 210%, and that's almost a multiplier. The second multiplier is the one with the frenzied blow. So because your rage is over 750, you have increased damage by 100%. Because I'm always converting my rage and my willpower, half of the damage will be doubled because of this. Next up, the multiplier that's commonly used is time which cannot heal. We increase damage dealt to enemies that's debuffed by us because we have the status debuff by 120% with the passive. And followed by that, the last multiplier for damage is going to be critical hit damage. We always go for this because with a high critical chance, we hit very hard. And this is how monsters shred with 10 million HP, 9 million HP. The more HP they are, the better it is. It's so satisfying watch them getting shredded. Now, how do I perk this out? So, we can start with the basics, but I still have a few points I want to touch with you guys. So in terms of defensive capacity for the build, there's about 3 of them. So the first one is you want to block with anything and also get the efficiency out. This will also allow you to block and give weakness stack. If you look carefully here with Secret Oath, weakness also makes enemies more vulnerable. This is massive. This is like a alternative debuff, and this makes them weaker, increase the Bleeding Edge damage. This is a defensive and offensive perk. I recommend this for almost every build. After that, we have the Branded Burst. Branded Burst is a defensive capacity that gives us 100% reduction to damage when we're not taking damage for a while, and this goes further. After that, we can't get one-shotted because we only take 40% of the damage on the first go. And those 3 are by far the best protective measures. There is one more, which I don't recommend because I like my unit to be mobile. The Disallowing Vessel is a really good offensive and defensive perk. The only downside is you lose 50% movement speed. You might think, hey, I'm moving around, but in reality, the blinking does not count as moving around, and that will actually make you slower. The first time I built for the Disallowing Vessel, I was very tanky. I do a little more damage, but I was moving like a turtle. I was moving like 3 movement speed per second because of that. But yeah, this is a really good perk if you find yourself dying too much, and it has really good sub perks with critical damage, with maximum HP. Those are really good. And lastly, you do definitely want the applying 2 additional elements, because if you are applying a lot of debuffs like a dot mage, you want as many elements as you can. Elements. And just some small perks, because I was so high level, I can go for increased damage when there's only 1 alive, because usually only the boss stays alive in my circle of death. And this is fine. I don't really need any other perks because everything dies to me. And I also have this perk because sometimes I have lots of rage. And because I have lots of rage, I got a bit of damage increased. In order to have more resource, I have 400 rage and willpower maximum over here, and another 150 over here. This also gives us the availability of unspent rage for more damage. I did go for the increase of element chance score because I don't have enough willpower. And this is optional. If you don't have enough points, you don't have to go for this. This is just the icing on the cake in the late game. I went for the material status element because of my offhand. My offhand catalysts have 260% occult debuff. So on the other side, if I had more debuff for material, I will go for the occult element chances. Only thing I think I'll change for this build is I can unsocket this point and I can build into this point. So I get more movement speed, more casting, instead of just a random spell casting. So 8 damage is okay though, so that's the difference. My favorite movement speed over 8% damage. So I often had questions, how do you perk up the mage and what do you look for? So what I'll do here is I'll actually perk with you guys and go through the ideas of why I'm perking for those. So I'll reset the character, and I do want a potion because otherwise I go red all the time. We'll get a potion just for that. So perking the character, usually I can start with anything I find, and because this is quite melee of a class, so I'm actually favoring for a lot of the damage. And here we have lots of the melee damage because I'm using a dagger for the source of damage. And as I perk forward, you can see how many points I have left, and this is how close we're about to reach for the next part. Here, I don't need this right at the start, simply because this... Oh, let me confirm this first. This one is defensive. This one is what I level into. I'll be leveling into this one, and pretty much this gives me the damage. That's the first multiplier. This gives me the Furious Appetite and also the Frenzied Blow. That gives me the double damage over things. After getting this, I'll be looking for more Rage because I want the unspent Rage increased damage. I want consider the Rage game, but I'll be unperking this later, so I might leave it aside, depending on how you find with the leveling. After that, I'll be perking over here for the 400 additional Willpower and Rage. And after that, I might be going for my Occult multipliers, and this is the one that's with the status. I might be going for this if I have a debuff that's, you know, flexible with Death Gazer maybe. If I'm going for the range build, if I'm going for warrior build, I'll be going for the critical. So what I can do is I can consider perking here for another 150 willpower, and this takes me further into the critical. And this is a big multiplier for additional damage. At this point, I still have 54 points. So I believe I'm at 36 level, yeah, level 36 now. I do want to look into debuffs now, and I also want to look into the block. If I am actually going for sustainability or like survivability, I'll go for the block. This allows me to block with anything, so I don't need a shield. This also opens up for the perks of giving enemy debuffs with weakness. Very big boost of damage. After that, I'll actually want to look towards this now. Now look towards that, what's going to happen is, notice the big circle is still here. I'm going to spin the big circle back because I already have those unlocked. I can spin it back, and all of a sudden, let's unspin this. So all of a sudden, I perk this leveled towards the Salvatory Anchor, and this allows this still to be intact, and I will be here. And let's perk those out. We'll go for physical damage because that will help Bleeding Edge. So all of a sudden, I have this particular perk. This is for wearing different chest piece and also helmet. But wearing the heavy helmet and chest piece, I'll actually have higher resistance, and that gets multiplied. So let me show you. This is 200, 2,700 and 3,000. I take those off. I'm looking at 600 and 900. Those only gives 480, but those gets multiplied so much because of that perk. Now that I have my defensive perk, I am pretty much level 50. What I need to look for is, do I need damage or do I need defensive capacities? If I need damage, I come over here. If I need defensive capacities and also a bit of damage, I count for the 10 points. For me, I probably look for damage at this rate, because you know, if we die, we don't lose anything. Those are the perks that give us damage because we can debuff enemy multiple times, and this is also a chance to multiply the debuffs. And this is enough, and with weakness debuff, with elements debuff, Bleeding Edge should be doing a lot more damage. After that, if I was still perking, and I want more damage, what I do is I go further. I go for the relic damage, or secret damage. I keep calling it relic for some reason. Now I did look into it. The secret damage over here, comparison to the attack damage, attack is better because the damage conversion is within the circle of the ball health down. Within the circle, damage is converted into secret, but it's based on your Bleeding Edge damage. So basically, when we have this going, damage is converted into secret damage within this circle, and this one-shots people, but the Bleeding Edge base damage should be the highest one. So now I'm looking at, what level am I? I'm looking at level 61, right? Yep, 61. So to go further, if I will go for more damage, I'll go for those. And this allows me to curse target with this particular skill, with Mark of Impunity, which I wasn't pressing because I had a belt. If I didn't have the belt, I'll be spamming this as well. And also I perk into this, which spread around, so I don't have to click that many times. Now I'm looking at about level 68. This is when I want to go for a bit of survivability. I'll come over here with my tender points. Where are my tender points? There you go. The breasted Branded Burst. So here this also gives material damage, which is really nice first. We'll perk this out. And now we look at level 73. So from this onwards, I will be perking this out for the additional max element, which increases our damage output. Now I'm at, 13 points left. And this gets a little flexible. So a lot of things I can look for. I can look for the small points here to increase damage on the impaired movement. I can look for another 25 damage here for only 1 unit within sight. And after that, I can look for some other perks as well. So this is where we're at pretty much at 79. And I'll have the full build for you guys onto the build maker, and also with the video you can see the full build. So I'll be perking here because this kind of opens you up for more options. But if you want to perk more further, remember earlier we perk for the increase of status element. You can also go for this perk for the status element, and those are optional depending on which one you need the most. And after that, you can look for more perks. So it's really optional in the late game how you want to go further, but the most branch are pretty much finished at level 75 and level 79, and that's the biggest part for this build. So this is more detailed towards the tree, and hopefully you guys find it helpful. Let me know what you think. And yes, let's go into the skills now. Let's look in the skills and let's look in the item choices. For the skills, we'll go with those a little quickly because we might have seen it before. We want the debuff. This is optional actually. We just want the ability to blink multiple times. This is the crucial one because this quickly spends willpower and get us converted into rage. If I was short on rage and willpower, what I can do is I can have potions. Most of the time I'll be short on rage because rage is the source of damage. So what I do is I can cast spells that give us rage, or I can use the potions. With this one, we have so much good conversion rate, we don't even need the potions that much. So after that, the casting speed, attack speed is not bad. Movement really helps you clear the map. And leave a decoy is just something optional. Those two are optional. And the status effect is not high, but it's okay. Still usable. This is a big factor for the build, because you want to block to give enemy weakness. You want to have global life leech, because I don't perk into that. And I did perk into one though. You want resistance, which will make you much tankier, because you have so much resistance. This multiplies that. After that, you want critical chance to hit harder, you want to increase effectiveness, so everything else gets stronger, you want movement speed. I can sacrifice movement speed, and I can go in for something like increased buff duration. That's not that great. Usually before the fight I just buff myself, and that's enough. That's enough duration. Next up, this is the fancy part of the build, because you're going for the secret damage that wholly smites people. You get the stroke duration, so this is actually close to cooldown, and you want to convert damage. You also, converting damage means your perks here, the perks over here is actually working. If you don't do that, those perks and this perk won't work. They won't give you the massive damage you have later. Now, after that, you do want to do some damage, because when you do damage, if I perk this out, I don't debuff enemy. But if I perk this in, I debuff them with a bunch of chances. And those are pretty decent debuffs. I also increase the chance of getting debuffs on them, and I also increase defensive capacities with only 1 point. And also this follows you, very important. Next up, Mark of Impunity. We want to debuff enemies with curses, because they take multiples of damage from us when they're cursed. And they also get really weakened. We want curses, we want vulnerability, vulnerability, vulnerability. But if you happen to not have the build, if you're casting by yourself, I recommend just going for this one. So Mark of Impunity spreads on enemies. You just get a bunch of mob, you cast the spells, you cast the spells, you just cast the mark onto them. You can't cast it here because there's no enemy here. Next up, the Plague Burst. This one is not that much of importance, but rather it helps you debuff the enemies and get your damage done. This also helps you lifesteal a little bit. Because we don't have a guaranteed status debuff, unless it's a blink, but blink is also a percentage. So this wider area of effect, really good. Increased chances, really good. Leave a poison cloud means we can debuff them even more. And increased chance to afflict for all elements, which is really good. Now explosion, this is optional. And critical damage is optional, and lastly frenzied enemy is optional. So those are optionals. You can go for those, you can go for anything else. I think that should be enough, because I'm not going for summons, and we don't use the summon ones. Lastly, we spoke about Bleeding Edge, and there's many choices. Here I can go with the area of effect and projectile speed, and if I didn't need the damage, I can go for this one, which it just spins a non-stop. So those are options, and those are the two best options I feel. This one gives us a wider range that kind of helps me clear faster, but against the boss, I can pick it here. At the moment, facing high level monsters, I didn't have a problem, so I actually go for that wider range. Later, if I have a problem of killing them, I just go for this one. So that's very flexible. Next up, let's look into the item choice. Weapon is going to be your essential weapon choice, and the belt is optional, because it's just right click away. So this belt also gives lots of stats, so it's up to you which one you want. This one, you know, just it doesn't have to click it, that's the only thing, it's like auto clicked. For the weapon of choice will be a dagger. This allows you to cast all the buffs and all the bleeding edge spells you need to, and this will be the shout here and also bleeding edge. That's the major source of damage, and also the debuff with mark. For the particular dagger, you do want to at least to have 2 sockets in offensive 1 and maybe 1 socket in offensive 2, depending if you have added damage added on the catalyst. If you have added damage added, that's okay, but if you don't have added damage added, notice I stopped debuffing enemies with status. I don't have status anymore because I don't have that source of damage. So I need to make sure I have the spell damage for that to debuff enemies. Now I have status debuff again. If you want a detailed guide on how to get in status on anything, check out our guide onto how to get status on anything. It's posted onto YouTube a few days ago. Next up, the weapon should focus on physical damage, rend damage, and toxic damage, and that should be your priority. So here we have 2 rows of physical and rend, and also I socket 2 gems in. This is not the best weapon by far, I just bought it from the shop and I craft a little bit on it. If you want a crafting guide, we also have that for you guys. Next up, the shoulders, the gloves, I usually go for reduction to willpower and rage. This means I can spend more. Other times I just go for raw stats and also material damage, because that will buff everything. Material damage stands for physical, toxic, and rend, and this will means everything here that I wanted is getting buffed. After that, the shoulders again, same thing as the gloves, raw stats with toughness and ferocity, material damage, reduction to willpower, and those ones are crafted earlier. Helmet, chest, and the pants. Those items, usually I want the heavy helmet and the heavy chest with highest resistance. Those are my source of resistance that's getting multiplied. Other than that, I want cooldown, I want attack speed, I want critical chances, and sometimes raw stats are okay. Wisdom here is I can't help with that. So most of the focus here is high resistance. I've rolled a 700 or 800 resistance on my chest on online account. That's my best so far. Now, I do want some cooldown reduction. You can see 30%, 21%, and 32%. How to craft those, I do have a guide, but the crafting material will cost a lot sometimes for a good craft. So I recommend finding a good craft with higher level gears. Because it's offline, I've been crafting on level 90 gears. And why is cooldown so good is that you can rotate your spells and make sure you have all your spells ready. Mostly at those 3. You have all those 3 ready each time you fight a boss. It's not the biggest factor, but when this is offline, you don't have the lifesteal, you don't have your block chances that high. That's only downside. With the rings and amulets, my biggest secret of having high HP, oh gosh, my HP is so high. So biggest secret is the rings. I take those off. Notice that I'm at, 70k, so 30,000 HP with those, because I usually go for maximum HP here. It's a really good row, and after that I can go for critical damage, which is the basis of the ring I crafted, and also that's it. I went for material damage here and occult damage here. Occult damage is not good, by the way, and it only works when I have the Balhawk down and converting damage into secret. Lastly, for the amulet, this is the only thing that can roll into physical and rend other than the weapon. Rings can't roll into the material damage, they can roll into percentage but not flat damage. Rings can only roll into elemental flat damage, that's fire, air, ice, and lightning. For the amulets, you want to roll for at least 2 of the damages, and this gives us a lot damage. So if you look at my damage, I'm at 9,800, I take this off, 8,000. So massive boost with damage. As for this build, this will be shared onto Discord. If you don't know how to actually download the save file, make sure you ask someone in the Discord, and if you download the save file and if you're not sure where to put it, make sure you check the pinned video with time mark at 4:30 time mark, so 4 minutes and 30. That's when I first explained how to copy paste the save file onto the offline account. Then you can have this account to play around with. There's enough currency to play around as well, and a few resources here I was using earlier. And that's pretty much it. This is the build, and the build is very fancy simply because it allows for many things. It allows for high movement speed, defensive capacities, incredible lifesteal, massive AoEs, and super flexible. And don't worry, I'll be improving on the Curse Mage, I'll be improving on the Blink Archers, the Blink Rangers, I'll be improving on the Warriors to adjust, and the knowledge we gain from this build, I'll be improving on the existing builds we have at the moment. And what I do is, in the future, I try to perk it out and allows you guys to reflect on where you want to put those few points. Thank you so much for watching this build, guys. This is a little longer than usual because I want to share more insights, I want to make it more detailed, I want to favor players who are starting up with building into the build in mind. So what do you do the perks? I want to explain everything. So if you like the guides, please follow and subscribe me onto YouTube and support me onto Twitch. The best way to support me onto Twitch is with your Twitch Prime. Thank you so much for watching again, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this build and let me know what you think on Discord and maybe on Twitch Live if you have any questions. I'll see you guys next time.